Okay. How are you going? It's 8 o'clock, eight, like 6 past 8 in the morning.
Um,
It's International Women's Day. Happy International Women's
Happy International Women's Day. I'm actually very excited that it's finally here.
Right,
I've met
really?
Yeah, in one year I've met so many women in music that I hadn't in the previous years. And now there's a little bit of a community forming, which has been great. And yourself,
Yeah.
especially yourself, because we play together every week.
And so I was thinking, because it was like really 1 year ago where I met you properly, because it was at the International Women's Day dinner
Yeah.
that I was organizing and you were playing. And I think it was the first time we'd met. So, and I was thinking, oh my God, it's 1 year since then. And in that year, we've done so many gigs in a couple of
Yeah.
different formats. But I was going to ask you about, yeah, how you felt about International Women's Day. Like, firstly, if you find people say that to you, because I remember this was about maybe 5 years ago. I was actually at work and a guy came up and said, "Happy International Women's Day" to me, and I was like, what do you mean? And I was really confused by it. Like I sort of just like, yeah, sure. And it didn't have any meaning for me at that time in my life. It didn't connect with it anyway. But now, that's changed a lot for me. So now International Women's Days has a little bit more meaning. I don't know if it's because I've gotten older and certain things have happened. And, especially being in music, I've found like we've had to fight a little bit harder. So now International Women's Day comes along, and even outside of music comes along, and I'm like, yep, this has so much more meaning. And I'm up in the morning and, sending my partner off to work, and he's like, okay, see you later. Advocate for, no, what did he say? International Women's Day ambassador, see you later. And then I was like, yeah, that's my dream. Like if you got up in the morning, what would you like to do?
Right.
And that's great. It resonated with me so differently than when this guy first said it to me, actually, of all places, in a music recording studio. And I was like,
Oh,
how am I supposed to react to that? What do I say? Do I say thank you? So, like for you, has it changed? Like the day changed, or but you kind of answered it. You said you look forward to it.
yeah, it's changed. I would say it's been quite recent. Before that, I mean, even International Women's Day back in Greece, I don't know. There's other things that trump it more so, like Mother's Day. I don't think that International Women's Day has any particular strength or character in Greece. They don't do a lot of events or anything like that, which is not it's not a bad thing if people recognize it in smaller circles, but I also wasn't recognizing it in my own life um, until I moved here, and it was a way bigger deal. I feel like the country is a little bit more progressive, so to speak, and more woke in recognizing women and all of the minority groups, and um, especially last year, I would say, with all of the speeches that you brought to International Women's Day at Phil Helene, that was kind of what sparked it for me. And even meeting Desi Levoyanis or
Yeah.
meeting Susie, um, it's just young women my age that I didn't even know existed that were in the space.
I know, because I'm.
Even
Where have you?
Maria, that was the first night I met Maria. A lot of the time that you meet people, it would be at places like that because when you're at gigs during the year, you only see male. It's a very male dominated space. So
Well,
yeah.
yeah, I always go like, often I will always ask people, do you reckon it's a bit of a boys' club? And I, the thing about it, so I actually just backtracking about that was also the first time I met Maria as well. And
And now
she's
you're
now,
playing with
she's
her.
a work,
Yeah.
she's a bandmate and a colleague now. But yeah, and same with, Desi as well, and just thinking, oh my God, like, where have you been? And that I really like that too. But it takes a lot of effort, I think I spent a lot of time, it's really being really creepy and Googling people to see who comes up so I can go, hey, listen, are you
Yeah.
interested in this thing? Um, But the boys club thing, which is I don't think it's particularly intentional, but it's just been the way it is. And when things are the way it is, people just go along with it as well. Um,
And it's not anything relatively harmful. It's just boys doing their thing, and we're also participating. It's a musician community more than anything. It just happens to have way more men than women. And I don't know whether that's because there are already men in there. So sometimes women feel maybe intimidated or don't want to participate because now that I've met a lot of girls, it's nice hanging out with girls again. Um,
uh, uh,
there's just a little bit of a different vibe when you're in a group with a girl. There's a bit more understanding, I'd say.
I I have to admit that I feel there's a bit of jealousy, but sadness. Like when I look at like people your age, Maria's age, and Desi, and even Susie. Oh my gosh, like 13 with so much future because I think it's a little bit different, and I think that there's a bigger gang of you. There's a bigger tribe, so it's not as scary to rock up to a jam, or it's not as going to feel as threatening, or and so because I think that if I was starting out now, I'd have a little bit of a different attitude. I think, I
Mm.
maybe might have felt less isolated or less bullied sometimes or less invalidated because, yeah, I think men and women, there's some differences. My age now, I think women are not around because they've gone on to have kids and they have families. And if they're also working, their time
Mm.
is just taken up. And because a lot of the women are taking care of the kids, that's using the extra time. And I'm really generalizing here, but I think if you were to do a poll at say, you know, the 80 Greek festival and go,
Mm.
all right, guys, how many of you have kids and how many of you don't? You'll find that the men with kids on the stage have someone back home looking after the kids. The kids are not at home with the dog, with like Peter
Yeah.
Pan, like the big dog that used to look after the kids. They don't have that. So that's for me, that's a real big difference. And then what happens is that you also get a bit isolated because you're not meeting women like you if you don't have kids. Um, but then, yeah, that gets harder to
It's
connect
a
with.
different phase in your life, and once
Mm.
you have kids, I saw my cousin recently, and she's had a kid, and she says that she gravitates to other women who have kids, or even
Yeah,
people at work who have kids, because it's similar responsibilities, similar phase in life,
yeah,
and you
yeah.
kind of get,
Conversations are going to be the same. But no, yeah, I think that's going to change. And I think it's good, and I think it's great. I think the younger people have got the energy to go and maintain it. Like to keep going to the jams or to keep doing the festivals and to keep being present.
yeah.
Um, Yeah, I think that we probably need more of that. Unless, do you think there's anything that, like, have you gone, look, if only this happened, if we could do this, then this would encourage more women or would kind of make the balance a little bit more even?
I think girl bands are the answer to anything.
Yeah,
We've spoken about
yeah,
this, and
yeah,
even Irene Velas, when we had spoken about having that dinner, which will happen. It's the year for it to happen. It's only the beginning of the year. Or something like a small event that would be mainly female centric. Obviously, but men can participate, or Wayne, our resident feminist, can
yeah.
participate.
That's it. In the supporting role, he's very much the
Yeah.
there for the platform.
Just to understand that there are other women out there, not that they're not, you just don't realize that they're there because there's not too many of us.
Yeah, well, there's not too many, but also I think if everyone's spread out doing different things, we don't come across each other, and that's the
Yeah,
problem. Like you don't know you exist unless you run into each other, and there's no kind of Facebook group chat for female musicians Greek female musicians. I don't know. I haven't seen one. There's different
That's actually
forums.
a modern solution, I'd say. A female group chat.
Or
That's
like,
so
or a monthly, or maybe 3 times a year, we're like have a regular catch up on Zoom. What's everyone's project doing? Did you need a violin? Hey, I needed a clarinet player and I can't find one. Does anyone know a female clarinet? I don't know. I There's kind of none of that. There's no catch ups, coffee catch ups. Um,
yeah,
and none of that's linked to any existing group. For example, the Greek Orthodox community, who do heaps and they're our biggest group, but I haven't seen a meet and greet type of thing, perhaps for young, up and coming female musicians, or
yeah.
you know, um, yeah, just those linking up places. That it's I think it's like exciting. I think there's definitely um, it's definitely change happening. Yeah. So actually, we've just started talking because we know each other, but this is going to be heard by people who don't know us, know what we look like. They're just going to hear our voices. So I should say that I'm Kat, and I've been asked by Chris, who has the Alternative Kind radio show, to do some interviews with some more women. And I think that's a really good example of an ally, of a male ally going, you know what? Hey, I don't have the context. Maybe someone else can jump in and I'll can pass the reins on. So that was really fun. And I play the violin. So I'm doing these mostly as a musician, um, and talking to other women who might be musicians. But how would you describe yourself when someone goes, so what do you do?
Oh, I am Stavroula, and I'm definitely also a musician. I know I have a day job and I've just finished uni and I'm in this weird limbo in my life, but musician would be my main thing. Um, I write and I compose, and I'm delving into a lot of Greek niches at the moment, like Asia Minor music, like we're doing, or traditional music, especially the Peloponnese right now, which is driving me crazy, but it's a lot of fun. But one thing that actually just came into my mind with you saying male allies and women in interviews, um, for my band Erinaki, because I'm in a band Erinaki, and we've written this particular album called Inarga. It came out last year. Um, when there's been interviews on Greek radio stations or even non-Greek radio stations or some Greek speaking radio stations, I try to take the reins on that because I like to I like talking, but I also feel like using my Greek because I've been born in Greece.
Yeah,
But it also gives me an opportunity to, have the female side of it out there because it's me and Con Galmaris. But if I can kind of bring the show girls that there's another girl out there writing music and doing nice things, and it might encourage them to do the same as well.
yeah. That's awesome because it's very much a duo, but you can play in a bigger band style too. Yeah.
Yeah, a bigger
Um.
band including Effie Canyotis, who
Yeah.
has been a great role model coming into music. It's because I've known her now 4 years, and she
Mhm.
was one of the first people that I met at the Rebecca Jam, and one of the only other women that I would see there. Because it would be either me and a bunch of guys, or me and Effie. And when Effie would come, my eyes would light up.
Totally.
She's just so fun to be around.
Yeah. Look, I know. I think I've felt like that for a very long time as well in playing, and I've had to step back for really, and when I say step back, I mean I was not even listening to music, not even playing it. The violin was under bed somewhere. But then come back into it and then look at it a bit differently and go, okay, what is it that I want to do? What is it that I don't want to do? What other things do I want to do? But you mentioned Effie. I don't think she'll mind if we mention her work as a professional artist. It's gorgeous. It's stunning. Um, and you can see her artwork at a restaurant called Odyssey, which is in Elwood. And if you go on a Thursday night, you'll see
We
a very
also
good,
play there.
you'll see a very good trio playing there, and they've got two women. That's
I think
us.
that's one of the um, less common things, a band being two-thirds women.
The majority, definitely. The majority. But I think, yeah, I think maybe I'd like to see that one is to have just once like concert or a festival where the majorities, like you said, the men can be there. It's not like exclusive. But just to see a majority intentionally of it would be really nice.
Yeah.
Um, but what, just thinking about Effie, this is kind of a question I had for later down the track, but I like, because Effie, her brilliant artwork is at the restaurant, but it's also nice to link in as musicians with art or theatre. If there was one thing that I would like to see happen, I personally, if I could pick something in my career, um, say this year and be like, what type of project would you like? I'd love to do something that would involve theatre or art or some sort of
Yeah.
performance thing based in my music. Because I've done that in the past, like some contemporary
Yeah.
stuff. Um, but I was going to ask, is there something you've seen lately or like in the past, or even if when you were a kid, that really inspired you, that is in your memory, like, yeah, I want to do that. That's what I want to do. Or
I've literally just been thinking about this for the last minute as soon as you said
yeah.
that. Um, when I was in Greece last winter, I went for a trip to see my dad, and I had time off uni, and we love theatre, so we went to a lot of theatre productions, and Athens is a hub of just anything
Oh yeah.
artistic. Um, we went to see Sophocles by Euripides, and it was incredible the way that they did it. They had the main actor, and it was him switching between all the roles. So it was essentially a monologue for two
Yeah.
hours. He was playing all the roles. Um, but the way they introduced the roles was there was also an artist right next to him, and while he was describing each new character in the play, the artist would take is it lead? Like a
The charcoal.
graffiti,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
charcoal. Would take charcoal and draw the guy on the spot, and then he would take it off
Yeah.
and put it on a canvas, and then that would introduce a new
Yeah.
character. And the connection between, acting and art, but also him being so talented and doing it straight away, and the actor being so talented and switching between characters instantly, like his facial expression would
Mhm.
change and everything like that. It was very inspiring, and I know that is not a thing that I saw a woman do, but it's just something that inspired
Yeah.
me. Connecting to that, Effie recently mentioned, I don't know if I can share this, but I will. Sorry, Effie. Um, we're planning on doing something where I might be singing with a counterpartner, and then Effie will be drawing in the background.
Mm.
She'll be drawing exactly what's going on while we're singing, so she'll be capturing the vibe of the night.
Yeah.
And people can go by and see what she's drawing, all the phases, and she wants to time lapse it. And then at the end of the night, you can see the final product and
Yeah.
whatever we.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's great because yeah, and I've seen that stuff done, and yeah, I'm totally into that as well. I really like because that way you can collaborate with other people who aren't musicians. So if there are a small group of us, we're limited, but why? We don't have to be. We can then collaborate with an artist or a dancer. Um, one of the things I love is playing for dancers, and I'd love to even play traditional stuff, but with contemporary dance interpretations, if that's people want to, because play Greek music, but that also means that you have to know the Greek dances if you want to dance to it. And
Yeah,
why not someone interpret a Greek dance song in a contemporary way? But my moment of like, and it has not left my mind, was in year 12. at school as a music class. We went to see this performance by a German contemporary ensemble called Ensemble Modern. Oh, I think they're German. I should check that, but Modern. And so it's like the first time I'd seen it, and I was like, oh my God, this is it. My mind's blown. But it was classical musicians um, playing very avant-garde and also improvising, but doing things like playing to it with a tea, like a tea kettle, like the kettle was on, and then the kettle would make a whistle sound. So then the guy would play along to that.
Ah,
Things like, coming, there was this big screen and there were shadows and they're walking and things coming from the roof. Like it was a not quite dance, bit of movement, bit of improv, contemporary, avant-garde, experimental, classical thing. And I was like, oh my God, I love this. And that's always been like, if I could pick something to do, I would do that. If I could
that's a cool thing to
perform
see
on
at a
that.
particular age
Yeah.
as well. Like at year 12,
Yeah.
as soon as you're finishing high school, you're
Yeah, yeah,
transitioning into adulthood and you're seeing
totally.
creative things in your life. That's
Yeah,
quite nice.
yeah. And then when I left school and went to the School of Music in Adelaide, which doesn't exist anymore, it was really progressive. So we did a lot of that. We did a lot of weird stuff, weird contemporary stuff. And I love that. But yeah, that was one of the questions I had written down about have you seen anything especially. Um, but Chris did offer some questions too. And he suggested, what is it about? Because I think you're trying different genres or you're getting into other stuff, but people would look at you and go, "Oh, you sing Rebecca." And so did you kind of end up in Rebecca, or it's because of you had the people you met, and then you formed Edenaki, and so then you got, and that's kind of
Yeah.
the avenue. Um, but so what is it about Rebecca that you enjoy? I mean, I assume you still enjoy it. What was it that you enjoyed about Rebecca or that spoke to you? And how do you feel about it right now?
I'll give you a bit of a backstory. So when I was in year 11, I had a I had a gig at Xarajacos concert. That was my first gig, you'd say,
Yeah.
because I was still in year 11. And the music teacher from school picked me up and said, "Hi, if you'd like to participate in this choir performance with us, there's also a band. We're doing a tribute to Xarjaco." I'm thinking, wow, this is cool. I haven't really participated in anything like that because at that point I was in a school band, and that was completely different. That was like heavy Laker, which I found later on that didn't suit me, but it was a phase that I went through. And I said yes, I participated, and then on the night, and sometimes during rehearsals, I would speak to Wayne Simmons, who we currently play with. It's come full
Mhm.
circle, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and he suggested that I go to the jam at Dragossia, which is every week. And he he was running it at that time with Con Calamaris because it was like their thing. One plays bouzouki, one plays guitar. And he goes, I think you would know some of these songs, especially having my dad who loves Balalaika and Rebetiko and all of that. He used to play it in the car all the time. So I went and I started getting into it. I used to go, I wouldn't say every week, but almost every week because I also couldn't drive. It was that awkward phase where my mum had to drive me everywhere. But even in year 12, leading up to exams, I would pop in sometimes. And that's where I really started off with Rebetica. So I do consider myself a Rebetisa, but only in the sense that that's my base here in
Mm,
Melbourne. That's how I started off. And that's where I met Con. That's where I met all of the people that I know now in the music circle. Um, but it's also the beginning of it. It's not what characterizes me right now.
mm, mm.
And as
Get it?
soon as
Yep.
we made Nike, that was a completely different thing. And
Mm.
I've seen articles written and people saying that Erinaki plays Rebetika or original Rebet. I'm thinking No, we don't. Not in a bad way. It's just there's we're more of a contemporary band, and we
Mm.
have influences from many types of music, not just Rebetiko. Like there's more traditional songs on there. There's a ballo on the album that we wrote last year. There is a Rebetiko track called Zahbena. But there's also some more Latin inspired, some more modern songs like Xenos and Orsores. There's variety. And that I think as someone who has random inspiration at random moments of the day at any given time, I
Mhm.
don't like to box myself into one genre, mainly because what I write spans across different genres because I can't sit still. It's whatever comes to me or whatever I'm listening to at the moment that inspires me to write something new. Um, but yeah, that Erinaki also moved into me meeting you guys at Phil Helene, and then now I'm doing traditional and
Yep.
what you mentioned before, playing for dance groups, meeting new girls in dancing, because now I'm also dancing.
Yes,
Um,
that's another transition too, isn't it?
yeah,
As a musician. Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, I've moved slightly away from Rebecca only because there's other places where I can grow at the moment more. Um,
And
and
you only have so much time in the day, and that's the thing. It's like sometimes you have to go, okay, in order to give my attention to this, I'm just going to have to put that on pause, and then it doesn't go away. You can come back to it. Like, and I had a big, I mean, I've been thinking very much. It was at a very cliche point in my life that, and I know other people have had it. At 40, which is the whole midlife thing. That yeah, but it's such a cliche, but I can't believe the amount of people I've spoken to. You go through the same things. Anyway, the transition time. So it's like, oh my gosh, if I stop doing this, this might be it. I've been a musician for my whole life, and if I'm not, then what am I? I'm nothing. No
mm,
one will know me. No one will care. I'll be excluded. I'll suddenly watch everyone else do it. Like there's a real type of thing that goes through your head, which isn't true because what happens is you just something else might come up, or you do something else and you come back to that.
yeah,
Like, and for me it's always been the very trad stuff, folky and dancey stuff, because the musicians I met were dancing. So um Joey as well, our colleague Joey, and Betty Glee dance group. So that was what I was learning. And then through that, I was really into certain areas. Like for me, island music, Nisiotika, there's a couple of the island dance tunes for me is that
mm.
do it for me, and Asia Minor. But also, yeah, I've Rebecca, I think for me now has even more meaning. I've always liked it, but
Yeah.
now when I play it and I feel like I connect with it a little bit more with the life experiences that that but
There's a lot of controversial songs on that repertoire.
yeah.
But I don't know, how have you found, I'm interviewing you now. How have you found,
Don't.
yeah, sitting down and playing more, I don't know, Pitrapesia, Dragudja, like what we do in Microasiatica and what you're doing in Rebetka with Anatreptics, the pre-war type music, which is not dancey per se, and it's not linked to any specific dances or traditional dance groups. Have you found that more relaxing or peaceful or boring or
Yeah,
what?
yeah. It's interesting. So, because like I come from the classical world, where the success of a performance is not
Yeah.
based on people, um, how many people are dancing, And I've done some Greek gigs where the person organizing it is very concerned, or like, oh, people aren't dancing, it's not going well. People aren't enjoying it. Whereas in the classical world, could be dead quiet through the entire hour. They're not even clapping.
And
You
they're
can't even
loving
hear
it.
them. And they
Yeah.
have a great time. And it's only until you finish where they'll be like, you know, you won't hear
Exactly.
any. But and I also think, with the arc of where I was when I was playing, at one point I was playing about six bands, and it was, a bit more active. And yes, there was a bit more of a party vibe, or let's get it happening, a lot more energy. And now I'm really quite happy to sit, play some Robertica or the stuff we do, around the table. But yeah, personally, I find it, yeah, more relaxing, but it's a little bit linked to the type of music. So I find, like, we've got a gig coming up in April, and the practice I can start doing can be the type of practice that the classical approach I had when I would learn a sonata. I take it out. All right, I've got the song, and let's just get a little bit, like, I can hone in and focus about some detail. And I feel like that's with the Mikrasia stuff. That's what I love. I love the little details. And the Rebettica, I like when like, we did have this discussion, didn't we, last night, about it being easy or hard. And yes, I think there's some tunes that are complex and difficult. But I think a lot of the Rebettica stuff I like is easy, as in there is maybe two melodies, and the notes themselves to learn are easy. But that's not a problem, I think. I think that that's one of the parts that makes it more inclusive, or, you know, easy to do, and that's why I just say, oh, it's a bit punk, because you might have three chords, you'll have a tune, and you have everyone just playing the same, doing the same thing, grassroots level. I don't know. I like that description, even though it's like blues. We'll call it the blues. Um,
I'd say what you guys are doing is more hardcore because there's a lot of lighter rebetica that are a bit more melodic or have harmonies and male
yeah,
and female
sure.
joining and
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, the relaxing. I think too, with a lot of, when you go into the dance realm and you start doing lots of medleys, and you start having, we're talking about Glendies, and we're talking about that. They're long, and there's
I've
a
just
lot
started
of
doing
music.
those. It's effort, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, there's a bit more pressure, I reckon. But I don't know if it's an age thing. I think it's just more of um, there was a point where I sort of thrived on the pressure more. Like when you study music, you're doing recitals, and there's a higher pressure. And now I'm really happy to just sit back
That's also a
and,
classical thing. I wouldn't say it's particularly just a musician thing because I've met so many musicians who come from different backgrounds or play by ear, and
yeah,
they're just they get the pressure, but not in the same way that we would coming from a classical background.
yeah. There's the classical thing has a really strong fail succeed. It's very this or that, good
Yeah,
and bad. I think because it's like there are very clear guidelines of what it is to be good, you know. We know
yeah.
it's apart from technique. We've got the repertoire that can show you which level you're at. We've got playing in time, playing in tune, nailing things. Um, and so there's a real kind of checklist of things to do.
Mhm.
Maybe in the folky world, it's a bit less. I don't know. Maybe there's not such a clear, or maybe it's a bit more subjective. Maybe because, I've had a lot of people say, "Oh, I love this guy playing," and they're like, "Ugh, I don't like this," or this person's facsimile, or this person's style, or I don't know.
I think with tradition, you kind of have to. I guess it is a little bit like classical. You have to respect the originator or the region of music where it's come from. You can't start playing a certain region with the style of a different one. And
Mm.
I'm learning that now that we have this dance coming up, Babaflesos, and we have to do a lot of Peloponnesian music. And if I do a certain run or something like that while I'm singing, I'll have someone point it out and be like, no, that's too migrasiatico, or you're doing it
Mhm, mhm.
Or
Yeah.
even the opposite, like you're doing it too much, like a singing is on another go, it's too straight. You have to add something to
Yeah.
it, or you have to take something away. There's some videos actually from a clarino player and massive singer Pana Yadlalza that I've been listening to a lot, and he has this little thing called the Grifoscolha, and he posts videos of how the notes are meant to sit, where you're meant to land. He's
Hmm.
very classical in that sense of this is what it is, and this is what the morio is, and the style. So this is what you have to hit. And then he goes out of his way to point out what is wrong as well.
Is
So
it
you kind of
helpful?
know if you're doing the wrong
Yeah.
thing.
That's awesome. Look, we are running out of time, but I
Yes.
feel like we can do a part two. Maybe we will down the track. We'll do a follow-up. But I want to end on your top three Rebecca tunes, and see if Chris gets inspired to play them.
Oh no.
Have a top three? Do you have a top three, or do you have three at the moment?
In my top three or top five, Printo
Yeah.
Harama is a definite one up there. I think there's a really hidden romanticism in that song about coming back to a lover after a while, after everything that's happened, because you miss them and you know you can't live without them. It's a very sad the beg you go, but Um, what are other Rebecca that I like? I like Para Piatlo Dromosu, only because we played that last Wednesday, and Fodini from Nicotini played it on Canon, and I've never heard that way, it being played and sung before. And then I don't know, I'm in my microscopical brain. I can't think of Rebecca right now.
Yeah, no, that's a
Maybe Yekome Yelasis. That's a bit more of a hardcore one. But it still has chord changes.
yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
and I do like some pre-war stuff like Calogria and
mm,
all that type of music. Chris, I hope
yeah.
this inspires you.
Well, you know what I like. I think I'm Doctor. I just love that melody, but I also think it's like the most devastating words. I just love it. I just like
Dramatic.
this dramatic. This person, it's like I've just done everything. But yeah, it's like nothing is working. But also it's I'm a Sabach fan. But I'm on Doctor is I think number one. Because you could perform it with just one note drone and someone singing it. That that
Yeah.
that is how that song can work. And in fact, that's how I've done it before with another singer. And so for me, stripping things back down to their, simplest core. If a song can do that, I love that. So
And there's a song that popped into my head. I'm not sure if it works. I think it works if you stay on A the whole time. Mas Jornadas que Daúlha, we've played that recently.
yeah, I'll try. Yeah,
I got Maria sent me that tune because she found an instrumental accordion version to it.
oh,
And she thought
cool.
that was
Okay.
quite cool. But
Um,
yeah, it's a little bit more intricate than the hardcore's
yeah,
more droning on one, but you can
yeah.
still stay on the A the whole time and it will be
Yeah,
good.
awesome. Well, we will sign off now, only because Zoom's going to completely stop on us. But I think we'll do a follow up. And thank you though
For
so
sure.
much
I feel
doing
like
it.
we've just been chatting
This
the whole
one.
time.
I know. I feel like we could have chat for ages, but we'll sign up and get this out there and shared, and people can listen to. And happy International Women's
Yeah.
Day.
Happy International Women's Day. Thank you for having me, Kat and Chris,
Yeah.
who's not here, but will listen to this.
All right. See ya.